Welcome back to another episode of our local podcast, Our Community. I'm your host, Alfredo Diamond. And just do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button for us so we can keep this moving. Also, for your real estate needs, think Diamond Class Care. I'm here with today's guest, owner Retro Rush Arcade, Josh Hoke.
Yeah.
Welcome, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate you letting me be on here talking to you for a little bit. So
It's a pleasure to have you.
thank you.
Josh, what's going on in your world right now?
Just busy. We're kind of ramping up into the holiday season, so we get a lot of parties and stuff going on for our local arcade. I've been doing this for a little over a year now, so kind of getting in the groove of things and figuring out how everything works. But yeah, it's been a fun time. Like I said, with the holidays, it can kind of be a little different traffic, but it's been good traffic. So I mean, we've been doing really good. So
That's good, and we'll talk about those parties and things. You got a pretty interesting setup down there.
yeah.
Way more than I expected. It was a really cool experience with you a week or so ago. Yeah. So where are you from?
So originally, I was born and raised in Southern California. So I grew up a lot of my kind of young high school days in Victorville. So it's kind of north of LA, about an hour. But yeah, it's pretty much where I was for the most of my life. And then, my family kind of picked up and wanted to move after high school, 2005. So as soon as I graduated, about 2 months later, we were kind of picked up and moved to New Paris, Ohio, just a little bit north of where we're at now. It's kind of, where I was from. It's a totally different environment. When we moved here, I had a lot of high hopes. I was kind of out of my element for a little while. Didn't really know what it was like here. And, I kind of got used to the way the town was and how people kind of treated each other a lot different here. It's almost like, people kind of care a little bit more, about each other and want to support one another. And that's when I kind of moved here, I was a little scared, but I was like, man, this is kind of nice. In California, it's different, man. Like, people cutting you off in traffic and just, like flipping you the bird every chance they got, it's just totally different. And, I think that's why, I kind of liked, Richmond just in general. Cause, eventually I did move to Richmond from New Paris, but, I like the atmosphere here, it's awesome,
What ultimately made you move from New Paris over to Richmond?
Well, we were kind of out in the boonies, man. We were up by like New Madison, which is kind of like Hollinsburg area, a little bit middle of nowhere. But a lot of it was just kind of the drive. We had a lot of these snowy weathers that, I was driving a 95 Mustang trying to go through these back roads in the snow. I'm like, this is not working. But eventually I met my wife, Chelsea, and, we kind of got a place together over on South Fifth, and, kind of that was our thing for a while. And eventually, unfortunately, my family ended up moving back. So my parents and brothers and stuff moved back to California because they didn't really like the snow and ice and stuff. So they moved, and we were getting ready to have my daughter. And so we kind of made that decision to kind of stay here. Okay. And I liked it here, So, yeah, so that's kind of been here ever since. So
what brought you to the arcade business? What got you to where you are now?
My dad, he's always been kind of like the tinkery kind of guy. He's been an auto mechanic, for, over 20 years, definitely a master mechanic by now. And his nature was always just, if something doesn't work, I'm going to find out why. Yeah. So, in my life, always seen that kind of male role model in my life. I was able to kind of, watch him do some of the stuff he does. And he's like tearing transmissions out of cars and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. I didn't really understand it in my younger age, but when I kind of grew up, that kind of like transitioned to me a little bit. I got into cars and, started doing that stuff. And then I always kind of had a back hobby of video games and stuff like that. But, eventually I saw a Craigslist ad one day for an arcade cabinet for like $100. And I was like, man, I'm going to go get that. I want to see what this is like.
Now, you mean arcade cabinet like the actual game?
Like the full on,
Okay.
Yeah, like the full style wood cabinet. And group of buddies of mine and stuff, we went and got it, threw it in the back of my buddy's truck and brought it home. And I just kind of like, my mind's always kind of working on like, how things work. And so kind of transitioned to that into the arcade world. It was kind of interesting. It's a lot of research. But, I like that kind of stuff. It's what I do. Just always learn how things work. So.
Now, didn't you start out, you were telling me about when we were connected a week ago that didn't you end up having like so many in your garage around the space?
Yeah. So when we moved here, we kind of found a nice little house that was a pretty good space. And we kind of collected the first one was kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool. Well, then it kind of attributed into, what else could I find out there that's kind of cool, So we ended up getting more and more arcade machines and learn how to fix them and stuff like that. And then eventually, yeah, I mean, we ended up having a full basement full of just all these arcade machines that I'd fixed over the time. I think we got to about 43 before it was kind of at a point where we're like, okay,
43.
this is a lot.
Man.
But it wasn't like it
big
was in my
garage.
living room or anything like that. It was in the basement and the garage and stuff. So it was like when you walk in my house, it still looked like a normal house. It wasn't anything crazy. But yeah, so we had about 43, and then we were just like, well, I kind of wish I would have had like a business at that time. And I asked around a couple places, downtown and stuff, and trying to see what it was like, how much it cost to rent a building and stuff. And it was hard. It was very hard because there's a lot of places that just weren't ready, and now like with Richmond, it's really starting to revitalize, and you start seeing all these old buildings start to come to life, and people care and they want to make it, the best it can be. So
did you think you'd be where you are now, looking back then, looking from back then?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I would say probably not. Everything that's happened in the last couple of years is kind of just almost in a way almost fell into place. I met a lot of good people doing what I'm doing, and we've kind of tried to help each other going along the way. And the building we're in now, we met some good people there that kind of, they were easy on the rent. They helped with some of the remodels and stuff. And, it's just been a very fortunate experience that I was actually at a point where I was about ready to give up trying to find a place to rent just because I just didn't know what else to do. So the plan was to kind of start putting them in different places, pizzerias, the bowling alleys, stuff like that, just to kind of get out there a little bit. And that way I could still work on projects. But, it just kind of turned into what it is. And, I'm very fortunate, I'm just happy for all the help that we've had along the way. So
I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship, and I know our audience members are too. Can you kind of just dive in, like what you went through to get to where you are, like from, funding to, having the capital to get out there and find a place and lease and things like that, and those monthly expenses. Can you kind of share what you went through, maybe some sacrifices and things that you had to go through to get to where you are?
So it really started, we saw this business model in some of the bigger cities like Indianapolis and Cincinnati and stuff, where they were doing these arcades where it was all set up on free play, as long as you buy drinks and stuff. So when I saw that business model, I was like, man, this is what I want to do. Like, this was the perfect image. Don't do quarters and stuff like that. So like, when I had that idea in mind, we went to, I went to the Innovation Center over here on Main Street, back when it was actually called, the Innovation Center. And I talked to some good people over there that I was like, this is the idea I have. This is what I want to do. Help me, give me an idea of what I need to do. And they were really cool, man. They kind of sat me down, was like, okay, well, we need to get you a business set up, either a, incorporated LLC, something. And they're like, we think for your kind of personality and stuff, LLC is a good way to go. And, I did a lot of research on the side, just trying to make sure that it was what I wanted to do. But yeah, it was interesting. There was a lot of things I had to do, a lot of hoops I had to jump through. But once I had that kind of established, the capital just kind of mostly came from, I've been working at Meyer for almost 13 years, and kind of, I was making decent money, and kind of setting some of that aside. And in the meantime, I was also finding some of these arcade cabinets that were just dirt cheap, $100 here, $200 there. So I would buy, 3 or 4 a month, I would say, and just kind of fix them up in the garage, get them ready, and then they would just kind of sit there.
Okay.
So, once I had enough working at Meyer, with the funding and everything like that, it just kind of, it got to a point where, I had to make a decision of, we're kind of getting more busy, we need me there at the arcade more often, and I kind of had to transition away from Meyer because my work schedule there was just crazy. It's a retail environment, holiday season, you
Late
can't request off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Third shifts. It was crazy.
Huge sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big sacrifice. And like I said, I made pretty decent money, and it was one of those decisions I had to make where I was like, if I leave this place, I'm sure I could come back, but it's like, it felt like I needed to take that step,
Yeah.
into that world. And it was a struggle, luckily my wife was also kind of working. She's in the medical field, and, she was making some money too. So like we had to make sure that the bills were going to get paid if I quit my job, my kind of stable income. So that was kind of one of those things I had to kind of really think about.
What got you over that? Because I went through that too. Like, what got you over that fear? Like, no, this is what I need to do?
A lot of it was the people. I like I said, I met up with the people that owned the building that we're in now, and I was just I came to them and I was like, man, like I don't know what else to do. Can I just put some arcades at your building or something like that? And then talking to those people, they were like, you know what, we got a spot. Let's just get you set up. So I went into this environment where I didn't even know what was going to happen. I talked to these guys and they're just like, we're going to do this for you. We're going to help you.
Wow.
And that's another thing about the whole Richmond thing. It's just like everyone just wants to try to help one another. And that's what I love about it. But yeah, they were kind of a big part of that. Kind of just like pushing me going, it's going to be okay. We can do this.
Wow.
And you're right. Early on I had so many fears, starting the LLC and stuff. I'm just like, well, I got to worry about this. I got to worry about that. What if this lawsuit happens, or just random things that would probably never happen.
Yeah.
But once I kind of let that subside a little bit, it was a little easier to kind of be calm about it and start actually making progress. So
What is, thinking about your experience and where you are now, there's someone out there that's listening that's on the edge thinking about, man, I really want to do this. I want to get out and do my own thing. What is one piece of advice that you could share that if you can inspire someone else, what would you share?
Try not to get too overwhelmed with the small details, because that was one of the things that happened to me is just I felt like I was more worried about the planning stages of everything than the actual execution of everything. So I feel like I probably could have got started a little sooner had I just jumped, and just made that leap. And I know it can be hard, but really that's what you got to do. It's, definitely do your research, but, don't let all your fears kind of take over and, take that wheel away from you from where you want to be. So
that's great advice. That's great advice. Josh, let's have a little fun. It's time for a segment that I got. I call it the Rose City Hot and Ready, Cold and Steady segment here.
Oh boy.
So I'm not sure if you've seen it or not yet, but
no.
I'm going to just ask you some questions and you just blurt out what comes to mind, what's your favorite place, and then just kind of talk about why. And we'll go through that. How's that sound?
Okay, we'll give it a shot.
Okay. Favorite fast food restaurant?
Oh man, that's definitely Taco Bell, man.
Taco Bell?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but when I worked at Meyer, it was just one of those like cheap, easy foods. $5 here, $5 there for lunch. Yeah, love it.
Okay. Taco Bell. I haven't had that yet. All right.
You haven't had Taco Bell?
No, I've had Taco Bell.
I was gonna say.
I haven't had that come up on the show yet. Yeah.
Well, if it's fast food, I've got different for like restaurants and stuff, but I think, it was always just a quick meal that, when I was at Meyer, like I said, I had to run over, get something, come right back.
Yeah.
So it was just right over there. So
we've got several parks in our area. Which one's your favorite park?
Favorite park? Well, I like the Elstro Plaza. I mean, it's not really like a park per se, but I think, I've seen what it used to be.
Yeah,
it used to be a parking lot. I used to park there when I cashed my checks at Manpower, and that was a long time ago. But yeah, seeing it now, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like the restructure of the entire area. So I mean, I would consider that a pretty cool park because it's got a splash pad and stuff. So
I would agree. That hasn't come up yet, but that's
there you go. Look, I'm 2 for 2.
Response. Yeah. So if you had to go recommend a first date to someone moving into town, what would an ideal date look like? Someone
Ideal
that you recommend, make a recommendation.
Well, I mean, the classic movies is always a good one. As long as there's something good playing at the movies, you know what I mean? So you do that. If you're more of like a downtown field, coming down here on Main Street, hitting some of these places, I would say, even Susie's now opening up. That's a pretty good little date spot, a little pizzeria. And there's a lot of other little businesses down here. So I think that'd be kind of it. Movies and a dinner right there.
Okay.
So.
All right. We've got several university colleges here. We got Earlham, Ivy Tech, IU East to come to mind. Which one comes to mind for you?
So currently I would say IU East. They've always been really cool to us as far as like working with the esports team and stuff.
Okay.
We did some charity events with them, which was kind of nice. They did like a gaming convention, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we took some like arcade machines down there and kind of had some fun with it. But yeah, like the esports guys and everything, Andy and all them, like they've been really cool with working together and kind of that collaboration with business to environment kind of thing. So, but yeah, IU East I think is pretty cool. I went to Ivy Tech.
Okay.
I didn't really do much with it.
Yeah.
It was just a couple classes here and there for automotive and stuff when I was kind of learning the cars and stuff. But no, I would say Ivy. IU East would probably be pretty cool. So.
All right, great. You did a great job with that segment. So shifting gears, thinking about the community involvement, and things like that. So as far as you mentioned downtown, where would you like to see this community within the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, Main Street really, it looks like it's kind of up and coming right now.
Yeah.
And I've heard there's a lot of good things in the works, with grants and stuff. The thing that Evelyn was doing, that's really cool. So, but no, I think we're on the right track, as far as the city goes, making a lot of great progress over the last couple of years, even. So I can only imagine what the next 5 years will bring, to what things will look like. A lot of these buildings are for sale. They're not completely dilapidated. I mean, they need a little work, but I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of these buildings are amazing. And sometimes, if it is too far past that point where it needs to kind of be, maybe considered teared down to be rebuilt, I'd hate to see that happen to some of the buildings, but I think, in the future that would be kind of nice to see, everything down here kind of looking nice and pristine. And unfortunately, I wasn't here when the promenade used to be the promenade,
Yeah.
when you got to walk
Back in the
around,
day, yeah.
with all the, umbrellas and all the shops and stuff. And, I wish I could have been there to see that, because I think that's kind of what it would be,
Yeah.
in my mind. But I know how it can be with like the traffic and stuff. So it's probably not an idea that's going to happen like that. But yeah, I think in the next 5 years, I could really see, Main Street kind of kicking it up a notch and really being the place everyone wants to go. Because it used to be, a long time ago, it used to be one of those, places where people used to be, and then kind of the road construction and stuff kind of set that back a little bit, and people just kind of avoided it.
Yeah.
But I think now people look at it and go, okay, this is what kind of we were imagining, when we envisioned it. So.
It's highlighting downtown. This next question, it's usually pretty broad. Thinking about the businesses and places you visit now.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a place you like going to that we don't have here. But let's take it a step further. Thinking about downtown, is there a business that we do not currently have in our community that is one of your favorites that you would think would be great downtown?
Oh man, that's a good question. For a while there, I mean, and the axe throwing thing was kind of neat, because we didn't have that for a while, and that literally has only been here for a couple months, and some of the bigger cities were doing a lot of that, with Triax moving in, that was kind of filling that gap. So that was kind of what was on my mind until they showed up. But besides that, I really can't think of too much. I think we need some more places that are kind of more of like an event center. Which in a way is kind of what we were envisioning for our building where we're at now, is to kind of have a venue where it has multiple audiences. You can have, a golf simulator, axe throwing, arcade, just a whole bunch of things in one building that would kind of serve as a venue purpose, almost like a Scene 75 or something like that. It's kind of on a smaller scale. But I think something like that, somewhere where people can go and kind of collaborate together, would be something that I think would be important. So.
Great idea. Great idea. So, a lot to talk about with our community. So this next one, I'm not trying to stump you up here, but don't make the mistake like I did. I gave a number, but I actually need a letter grade, A through F. Where would you give what grade would you give our community, and why?
Okay, so I mean, for effort all the way, I'm gonna say A on that, man, because I think I watch all these things, on Facebook and everything, and there's so much community effort trying to make this better. So, I mean, like, if you're talking from an effort standpoint, oh yeah, it's an A all day long. But I think where we're at, from where we've been, I think, we're at probably about a B status. I think there's still some things that need to be, changed up a little bit, cleaned up a little bit. But I think we're almost there. I think we're very close to being just A's across the board, because Richmond is really up and coming. And I think we can do it just a little bit more, but it's getting there. So
I love how you broke that down. You gave more of like a report card, but that was great. Great
5 different
response to this.
categories.
Yeah, I love that.
Got an F in science.
Love that, man. Are there, Josh, are there any upcoming events, projects you're working on that you want to bring attention to or highlight while I got you here?
Oh, for like the building and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're trying to change it up a little bit in that building. It's an old building, man. I think it used to be the WYCA, but it used to be so many different things through the course of ownership. It was even a daycare at one time. But I think that it's 30,000 square foot building, and I think that is not fully utilized for what it can be. So when I mentioned the event center thing, where it has multiple audiences and multiple businesses that are kind of working together to achieve one goal of just kind of being one cool place. I think that would be kind of what we're working towards. So we've redone like carpet and tile and paint So I mean, it's definitely way better than when we first moved in, and working with the building owner and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think that's kind of where we're headed. We want to be that cool place in town that kind of helps those community efforts. So, and just continue to work with all these local businesses, man. I mean, there's so many local businesses here that we'd like to work with. Just kind of collaborate ideas, and you know, we're good partners with Main Street Organization and all those guys, and they've been a great help. So I think going forward, we're going to keep kind of working with them and kind of spitballing ideas of what we can do together. So.
So that kind of segues into my next question. You're right on. Man, you're right on cue, man. You're making this so easy for me today.
Oh boy.
So, who is one person that you would like to collaborate with on a project or an idea or a venture?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I thought about kind of going down and talking to the bakery and, you know, maybe Olery's and some of these other places that are just local downtown hardworking people that I think, you know, we could probably come up with something pretty cool together. We just got to make those connections, and some of them we already have. And I think going forward, I think that would be kind of cool to be able to work with some of those people and, you know, bring a little bit of them to us and a little bit of us to them. So
yeah, man. Now, you want to shout out where your location is? Give the address of where you're located.
Yeah, so we are at 100 North 9th, over here right on the corner of 9th and A. It's right before the bridge. Of course, there's not a bridge there right now, but it will be eventually. So we'll kind of be in the main street right there. So, but yeah, 100 North 9th Street here in Richmond. So definitely got to check it out. So,
Josh, one last question. I'll let you get out of here, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you here. Is there anyone out there on your team, on your side, family, friend, staff, that you would like to shout out publicly today?
Oh, man, all of them. They've all been great. I mean, Troy, Susie, my wife, Chelsea, even my daughter, Evelyn, you know, she comes down and helps out from time to time.
Okay.
So Landon, my nephew, he helps out quite a bit. You know, we got a lot of good staff, a lot of good people trying to do a lot of good things. So I think we're on the right track. So I think all good people. So.
All right, man. Sounds good. Hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. This was a great interview, and I'm so glad that you could come join us. So thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Very
appreciate
grateful.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.